Yeah. Great stuff, guys. Well, that's a huge fight. It's on October 19th. And again, the co-main event, let's get to the next topic, will be Cris Cyborg versus Larissa Pacheco. So this pay-per-view starts off with a nice 1-2 punch. An all-time great in Cyborg versus a former PFL champ. I got to call her that because it's season to season, right? But she did win the last couple. But this is an exciting fight, right, guys? Are you pretty pumped up about this? It's not a Nunes, I hear you. It's not a Harrison. There's no UFC here. But these are two badass ladies getting down. What do you think, Dan Tom?
I think it's good for PFL, WMMA, and as far as specifically for these two ladies in this matchup, it's. I think it should be a reminder for not just casuals, but us hardcores as well, right? We get sucked into the UFC relentless schedule, but we need to be reminded that life goes on outside the UFC. You know, Larissa Pacheco lost 2 fights. Granted, I believe I don't know if one was to Andrade and the other was to a former title challenger, which was GDR, who I know she did fight. And she kind of washed out, right? But you saw there was talent there. She was really young. She kept trucking forward. Had an, win or lose, had an impressive series where she did a lot of growing in many facets, right? With Kayla Harrison under that PFL banner, and Cyborg, despite her ups and downs, she continues, to go to different promotions, gain belts, and challenge her with the best possible. And I know she fell victim to what a lot of Bellator fighters would fall victim to, as far as like, oh, your level of competition and how much of that, is your fault or not. And both those things tend to count against the fighter, unfairly as it is, right? But she's out here seeking legitimate matchups, like dangerous matchups against really talented, top ranked women's pound for pound fighters, which is what Larissa Pacheco is. And it's really interesting because not only could this be a potential, obviously a huge feather in Pacheco's cap for her continued growth, but even Cyborg at this advanced stages of her career, we see those things where we're like, oh, this person, they lost twice to the champ and they'll never come back. And then they have like a surprising career where you're like, wow, where did this career come from? And whatnot, or like I never saw this person catching up to I never saw the tortoise catching up to the hare, but we've seen it in MMA, right? Like we've seen Tito eventually catch up to Chuck as an extreme example that is. And I bring that up because I do wonder what a win here could do for Cyborg as far as the revisionist history with the Nunes matchup, which was a really crazy, uncharacteristic fight from both ladies that didn't last long. I still want a rematch there, but because Dana White and the promotion made it so definitive, Dana White puts the Amanda Nunes, mural, which is really weird. You never seem like a WMMA fan, much less like a Amanda Nunes fan, like now, then, or ever, right? Why would he do that, guys, girls? Why would he do that? It's because of the same John Jones narrative. He wants to lay claim to the best, especially if he's had any promotional grievances with you, and he's had that with Cyborg. So for Cyborg, I think this is a huge fight for her in potentially promoting her legacy as much as she can right now outside the UFC.
Yeah, for sure, man. She could get a. I don't know if the PFL is going to actually put a belt on the line. I think they will. They'll make up a belt. They'll give it some sort of a title. I don't think I've heard that officially yet. That's just my inkling. And her possibly capturing a 5th belt would be pretty damn amazing. Who is the baddest man, the baddest woman on the planet right now, Fada, in your opinion? Nunes is teasing maybe coming back. Harrison's gotten down at 155, 145, and then she looked great at 135 over former champ. Larissa Pacheco kind of sent Harrison packing, right, off a loss. But she also lost twice to Harrison earlier in her career, and then you got Larissa, Harrison, Nunes, Cris Cyborg. What are your thoughts on all this? Are we matching up the two baddest women right now?
I mean, listen, I do hope it is for a title because I think that's Cris Cyborg's biggest motivation right here. I mean, she feels a big sense of disrespect when people are constantly putting Amanda Nunes as the #1 greatest female fighter of all time, and she's got 4 titles, as we just saw here: the Invicta, Strikeforce, Bellator, UFC. If she can get an opportunity to claim the PFL one, of course, that's going to say something. I mean, collecting belts, obviously a big achievement, and Pacheco's on a very nice winning streak, including a win over Kayla Harrison. It's Great White who said earlier, as a Great White, I think he said, Cyborg always brings it, which is true. I do believe that this is going to be a very entertaining fight because Pacheco brings it as well. So I do hope it's for a title because I think that's going to be a big motivating factor for Cris Cyborg. But unfortunately, everyone's going to look at the head-to-head with Amanda Nunes and say that Amanda Nunes knocked her out. And like Dan Tom alluded to earlier, it was very uncharacteristic out of both of them to come out there and slug it out. I would have been very curious to see a rematch, but Either way, I hope this is for a title because, and for Pacheco, it's another opportunity for a big upset to add another really big name onto her resume and a way for her to start building her own career. I mean, what a story, right? If you look back at her UFC career, it's an opportunity for her to start building her name as one of the best female fighters as well. So I like the fight. I like the fight a lot, and I really do hope that it is for a title because I think it loses a ton of meaning if it isn't.
Mm-hmm. Goes Cris Cyborg has an incredible resume, but what would this win do for her legacy?
Well, especially if you can add that other belt. I mean, that's just so hard to overlook. And I mean, it's another organization. She's to be able to do this in different organizations and just overall, George, when we're talking about combat, when you throw in the Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu, everything that boxing that she's done, she is building up quite a big legacy. And I think these are the type of things that makes Amanda Nunes sit on her couch and kind of sit up and let us know if she might possibly be coming back because you see what Cris Cyborg's done. And I know head to head is that's the first question. Like, what would happen if they fought? And we have that answer. But if she keeps piling things on like this, it's getting easier and easier to forget about that. I think it's huge for Cris Cyborg.
Yeah, a fifth belt would be, that head to head carries so much weight against Nunes, but Nunes didn't accomplish what Cyborg did over such a long time. And now Nunes has gone off and retired, and
Different
Cyborg's still doing
eras.
her thing, and Cyborg has boxed. That's something Francis and Cyborg can both say. We've boxed and done out there and done pretty well. Like, they literally can lay claim to being the baddest man on the planet and the baddest woman on the planet, and they're both outside the UFC right now.
Mhm.
But only the hardcores really know this or care. That's the power of the UFC. So I don't know. This can be a huge win for Pacheco. I think you guys laid it out nicely. And for Cyborg's legacy, it can definitely add to it and maybe be the cherry on top. Who knows? Remember, Nunes also lost to Pena after she beat Cyborg. There's got to be something to account for the 4 losses going into the UFC, including Kat Zingano. Before her big run, that legendary run that Nunes had, and then losing to Pena. Cyborg, she's only dropped a couple fights, man. I mean, she's had some incredible dominance. And not only did she win all those belts that was pointed out by Fada, she defended all of them multiple times. Like, it's pretty amazing, man. It's really, really pretty amazing what she's done.